Welcome back, everybody. We are going to be talking today about 5 tools that you're definitely going to need if you're getting into any sort of code development, web development, um, stuff like that. You're definitely going to need all of these tools. Now, I'm going to tell you the general kind of tool that you're going to need, but the specific tool you get, that's going to be up to you. Definitely go look and try to find as many of these kinds of tools as you can. There's going to be free ones and paid ones. Some of the ones that I'll mention that I use are paid, but again, that's up to you. The free ones usually, they do everything you need. They might not be as pretty or as fancy, but you can definitely do all of these things for free. Now, you might be wondering, why should I even listen to this guy about these particular tools? Well, I've been professionally developing websites and applications for probably 7 or 8 years professionally. So I definitely have used these things every single day, day in and day out. I've used multiple different setups, multiple different free, paid, gone back and forth between the two for different reasons, and that's probably why you should listen to me. But I mean, whatever. Go look these things up. These are definitely going to be things, once you get into it, you're going to realize that you will need. So the very first thing you're going to need definitely is a text editor. It's going to be the most basic thing because you're going to need to actually edit the code on something. If you're using something more complicated like Java or you're trying to develop Mac or iOS apps, you're going to have to use the respective programs for those and respective tooling for those. But for the most part, a lot of people who work on different code, you're just going to need a basic text editor. Sublime Text is going to be the most basic thing that you can get. It's not free, but it is free. That's that's not for me to say. You don't have to pay for it, but there's that VS Code, which is made by Microsoft. Visual Studio Code, I think is what it stands for, is another really good one. That's one that I've used pretty extensively for, I think I used it for about a year when I was coming off of Brackets, which is a kind of a smaller project that was, I forget who bought Brackets, but some other person took that one on. There's definitely a lot of these text editors, especially if you're doing front-end work or just web-based work. GitHub has their own, I believe it's called Atom, and I don't think that has changed. So that is another very free one, very popular, good integrations, and I think some good plugins as well. And then the heavier side, I think, of what you're going to be looking at with some of these text editors are things like the editor I use, which is more considered an IDE. Go look it up, what an IDE is, and what it is. It's just essentially a bunch of tools built on a text editor. It has different code checking tools and different things for understanding like how the code is put together and referencing things from multiple files and projects and stuff like that. It's basically a text editor on steroids. I use Webstorm, but there are multiple larger IDEs. Some of them are old, some of them are new. Webstorm is pretty new. It's quite massive and it's pretty heavy running it, but it's definitely worth it because you get so many great tools, and it's just built for pretty modern web development. So the company that creates that, can't remember the exact company. I will put it right here. How about that? Right here, I'll put the company. But they have a bunch of different IDEs for everything from Ruby to Java to C and all these different, basically these, just like I say, editors on steroids for all these different languages. So, and that is a paid one, but it is definitely worth it. I find I have a perpetual license that I bought just before they went to a subscription model, which is, again, that's your business to be for it or not, but it's a subscription model. there are definitely a lot of good IDEs out there, so go check them out. But it's something you're going to need, because you're going to need to actually be able to edit the code. And then you're definitely going to want some things on top of just being able to edit the code. Highlighting being the most important one, and that's not going to be the case in Notepad. That's what it's called in Microsoft. Notepad. Don't use PCs, clearly. If you're going to use Notepad or TextEdit, you're definitely going to be lacking, because you're not going to have any sort of highlighting, and you're going to be, just don't do it. Get something that specifically can highlight code. The second type of app you're going to want is a window manager. Now, Mac lets you do a lot of interesting things with Windows and different types of desktops and stuff like that, and they've gotten quite a bit better. But I know Windows actually has had quite a advantage when it came to this type of thing for years, as far as multiple desktops and the ability to put things together. I don't know if that makes sense, but to be able to arrange things in certain ways. On Mac there is an app that's called Magnet, and that is what I use. I don't know if there is a PC version. It's, I think, $2, which, I don't know, it seems not really, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it allows you to put windows in the top left, bottom left, all the different corners, on thirds, half of the screen, the whole screen. It's awesome. It sits in the toolbar, lets you do that. There are definitely a lot of different window managers. I know there are a lot of different task launchers and stuff like that people use. I think Alfred was one that people used for a really long time. But having something to where you're going to be able to arrange your windows in a really cohesive way, so that you can see everything going on and nothing's overlapped and you don't have to be clicking through things, is definitely going to be helpful when you've got a console window open and an editor, 2 editors, and you want to look at this and that. So you're definitely going to want something to manage your windows. Again, go check it out depending on your OS, and there'll be something. All right, now for probably the most hipsterish one, Hyper. Hyper is a terminal alternative for Mac. Again, I don't know if there is a Windows version, but with Hyper, I like to pair that with Z Shell. Now, Z Shell, I'm almost sure can be installed on a interesting. Well, I've never actually thought about that, and I've never actually tried it. I just kind of assume, which is never a good thing, right? But you might be able to get something like that. Either way, you want a setup of a console or a terminal or something of the sort where you have more context than just the directory that you're in and the line that you're running. Whatever your input is for the actual terminal or the console. You want to set up, and with a combination of Hyper and Z Shell, this is what I get, is some way to see extra information inside of your console or your terminal. Z Shell will show you the Git branch that you're in. It'll show you the directory, and it'll show you multiple different indicators of things. And it also creates another level of highlighting for your actual terminal outputs and your everything from Git to showing different colors for files versus folders, things like this that really should already probably be defaults in any sort of console bash terminal thing, but they're not for some reason. So you definitely want something that is more powerful than just the plain console, the plain terminal, whatever shell that you're using. And fourth, you're definitely going to need a Git client. Use whichever one you want. I use the official GitHub desktop client. I believe there is one for Windows that I am sure of, just because GitHub is now owned by Microsoft. So, of course, they're going to have a official GitHub app for Windows. That just makes sense. Either way, you're going to want a Git app. I'm not going to say that it's better managing the files, but it is better for speed. There's less typing. There's going to be less room for error on branch changing, branch creation. Different, trying to do different things and create more complex merges and stuff like that. It's just better. It reduces the chance that you're going to type something in or do something that destroys a repo or reverts it to something that it shouldn't be, or you misname. You think you're going into a branch and you mistyped something instead of searched it on the where it shows your repos, and you can search all your your repos and your branches, and you can just click the one that you want instead of on the console. On the console, it is very likely that you can make mistakes around that stuff. So there are other Git clients, but the official one is just the one that I found works best. But Kraken is one that I have actually heard a lot of good things about. I do believe it's paid though, or there's some sort of limitation. There was some sort of limitation when it first came out, which is why I never used it. There's also SourceTree Fork. I believe there's some sort of project out named Fork. Sorry if I'm not up to date on the newest apps. I would have been at one time. Now I just use the ones that I know how to use, and I get the software done. Sorry, but you're definitely going to need something to manage your Git repos rather than just on in the console, especially if you're doing things professionally and you want to have speed and consistency, and a little bit of safety as well. Now, the fifth and last thing is some sort of diagramming. You want to have an app of some sort, whether it be just some sort of graphics app, that you can create diagrams for all of your flows, whether it be user flows or admin flows, or understanding how pages come together, understanding the correlation between navigations and all these different things. You're going to want a good app for that. Mind mapping is one word that a lot of people use for it. That's the word I use for it. Diagramming, modeling. I'm sure there's a more technical name for it, but I don't know what it is. So we're just going to have to deal with it, because it's going to be essential for you to understand how things come together, how one thing fits into another, how they flow, subparts of subparts of subparts. And that is really hard to manage in a linear list. It's possible, but it's not going to make as much sense in your head. And it's also going to be harder to adjust things in a document versus an actual app that has arrows and allows you to attach things to other things and move things from this to that. You get a much more, if a list of things and sub things was 2D, then mind mapping would be 3D or maybe even 4D. I don't know. Not for me to decide. But it definitely is on a much higher tier of planning than just lists. It's something that I advocate for all my planning when I do a personal, project plan. That's what I'll use. Even life things, life goals, I'll use visual mapping instead of linear mapping. It's just, I find it to be easier to understand, easier to get out, and then ultimately easier to break down in executable things, because a list is so linear that it's just hard to envision something when it's all one straight line. So having something that branches and has multiple features to it is it's very helpful. It's going to save you a lot of time. I use MindNode. It's free, but I believe that there's a premium thing. I bought it quite a while ago, so I can't specifically remember. But it is free to download, and I believe it would be premium features beyond that. So just get some sort of mind mapping, diagramming tool of some sort, because you're going to need it. And it actually makes a really nice tool for presenting things to other people, because it's a lot easier for them to understand how you want something to fit together too. So it's for you and it's for other people as well. All right, I've got one bonus. Now, this one isn't something you download. Well, you have to download kind of a thing to do things locally, to test locally, but Browserstack. I have had a Browserstack account for years. I believe I have grandfather pricing, so don't even talk to me about the pricing. I don't know. It has gone up. But Browserstack is a way for developers to test websites, web apps, anything that you would use through the web on different devices. Some of them are actual hardware devices, and I don't understand exactly the mechanisms for how it all fits together, but they do have actual hardware testing. So that's really nice. Everything from old IE, new IE, all the things you have to test, obviously browser testing, cross-browser testing is a huge part of web development. So having a tool like that is completely invaluable. It allows you to kind of decide which ones you want to support and then hit those every single time. The tool doesn't, but you can keep a list of ones like, okay, well, we always test with these ones. And then if you have issues with other ones, it allows you to actually go in and debug those other specific ones that you don't normally hit in your testing, which I have had to do multiple times. But it's a great tool. And like I said, there's not really anything you can do better than that. iOS has a simulator, and you can get, I believe you can get old IE images and run those, but you have to do them in VMs. So it's too much work. So just let Browserstack do all the work and just consider it. If you're a professional and it really is that much to you, then I would definitely consider it. I'm not getting paid by them. I'm also not getting paid by anybody else that I've mentioned in this thing. I make nothing from anything. These are just actual things that I use and actual tools that I use. All 6, if we want to include Browserstack. All 6 are tools that I use almost, if not every day, every week. Most of them every single day as a professional front-end engineer, developer. I do design stuff too, but the MindNote I think would help a little bit more with that. But these are definitely the essentials for anybody who wants to do web development for sure, and coding. This will apply to most coding. Many people use Git who aren't necessarily web. Java people use Git. It's integrated with everything because it helps to track the code. So go check this stuff out. Don't believe me. Go check each of the products that I mentioned out. I'll put my list of the things that I use, as well as just a general list of the items. They're down at the bottom. So pick these up. And I know a lot of people right now are inside and are trying to learn to code. They're trying to kind of expand themselves in these really rough times that we're kind of going through. And if you're going to do that, these are definitely tools that you're going to need. So get them ASAP. Get the free ones. Just get something to get started, because they're going to help you kind of get the ball rolling, so to speak. And you want to be ahead of it. You're going to have a lot to think about and a lot to absorb, and you want to jump on these tools. That's really what they are. Jump on these tools as soon as possible. So hope you enjoyed this video, and keep learning and keep coding, and hopefully these tools will actually help somebody. I know like I say, these are tools that everybody has to use every single day. So if you want to be in the industry, you should probably learn right now. But thanks for joining. See you next time.